Did you know that Nigeria has a world-class medical evacuation system operating right under our noses? We talk a lot about Nigerian innovation in fintech and robotics, but what about the logistics of saving lives at 30,000 feet? Hello, welcome to Gift Unwraps, where we showcase Africa's innovation and tell inspiring stories of powerful entrepreneurs. Would you believe me if I tell you that the first time I ever heard about air ambulance in Nigeria was last year? Yes. At a conference, I met Mr. Abdulazeez, the CEO of Swift Air, and today he's here to tell us more about the business. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much.
All right, first thing first, can you please introduce yourself and tell us what Swift Air Ambulance does?
Okay, thank you so much, my friend. My name is Malam Abdulazeez Inka Oniyongi. I'm the CEO of Swift Air Ambulance Services. Swift Air Ambulance Services is the Medivac organization involved in medical evacuation of critically ill patients from one location to the other. And the movement involves aviation. It's actually air ambulance, like it's rightly coined. That means fully kitted ICU aircrafts, to move patients who can fly on the normal commercial aircraft from one location to the other to seek proper medical care.
Oh, interesting. Air ambulance
Yes, please.
is seemingly an unexpected territory in Nigeria. So I want to know, what actually inspired you to go into this business? What gap, what problem did you see that made you delve into it?
Okay, so this is a pretty long story that I like to keep short a bit. I think sometimes back in 2013, two events happened. As at that time, I was a frequent traveler to the United Arab Emirates, to seek for proper medical care for myself, my dad, and my mom. Then at some point in time, that's the first time I got to get acquainted with some foreign hospitals. So there was this time in Nigeria where my father's friend, who's late now, had a cardiac issue and was rushed to the hospital, National Hospital specifically. Then we discovered that we needed to move him from here to Lagos, via air ambulance. So we tried, and the son wasn't around, so I was standing in for the son because we were a pretty close family. Mm-hmm. So we couldn't get any aircraft. So eventually, plus or minus, we got a private aircraft where we now needed to remove one of the chairs, put him on a stretcher with some medical crew, and flew him to Lagos. So I started thinking, okay, if that be the case, this is a transportation business, even though a bit technical, not like the usual conventional transport. If we couldn't get it, that means it's not available. But as at that time, I also remember there was flying doctors, for example, some lady in Lagos who was doing that. But I mean, it wasn't something that was prominent in this part of the divide. So I said, fine, this I would like to do. Then ironically, because I had a bit of contact with some friends, particularly a lady, Syrian Turkish, so I went to Dubai and decided that, asked her if I could get this. And lo and behold, within 1-2 months, I did my feasibility studies to understand the market and also the needs in the market. So, and lo and behold, agreements were signed. My first was with a provider, operator in the UAE, in Dubai. So that's how we started. So for that, I felt this is a game that I would like to do. Very tough because the market size is very minimal because of the capital-intensive nature of flying, especially like a private jet charter, specifically for medicals where you're only flying one patient or two, So unlike the conventional private jet charter where you can have 10 people, 14 people, depending on the seater, So that's how it started.
Okay, so I'm going to fuse in 3 questions into one. So far, how has it been? And can you let us in on the operation? Like, how does it work?
Okay, so first, I'm going to tell you it's not been on the bed of roses lately because of the economy, because as at the time I started, if you want to fly Dubai, it's about $76,000. But because of the exchange rate right now, it's about $120,000. So you have a very tiny size of the population who can afford
it.
Who can afford to pay just for that. Because by the time you calculate the medical expenses as well, which is not going to be more than that, but you're able to save a life eventually anyway. So the capital intensive nature, because of the dollar rates, has affected us tremendously. It's not been better. It's really, really, really bad right now. Now, talking about what do you do when you have a case like that. So the first thing you do when we have a calling is the medical reports of the patient, that we will need to see. And our medical crew analyze the medical report to see what kind of altitude, what kind of equipment, what kind of altitude will the pilot will need to fly before we can fly the patient. Then after that, we send in the price to the patients. Then, of course, we expect the treating hospital to give us what we call FTF, fit to fly report. Then, because of COVID, a little bit of changes happened where we need to get a confirmation letter from the destination hospital if you're flying the patient from Nigeria out of the country. So you will need a confirmation letter that they are willing to take this patient, because you're not going to take someone to another country and get stranded at the airport. So you need a fit to fly, also confirmation letter from the destination hospital. Then you also have to confirm if they have a visa, the expiry date of the passport, and also for the patient and a relative, Sometimes the relative may not be able to fly, depending on the severity of the case, where you will now need more medical crew, which is an intensivist and a nurse to go with the patient. So, and we thank God, we've never had any mortality from the time we started.
That's a good testimony.
We are always very careful. For us, it's about saving a life, so it's not even about the money. So we prioritize saving the patient's life because that's our passion. So, so far, we've never had any tiny single one airborne, never.
Okay.
Well, except for the fact that we've had challenges from the requesting families, for example, because when you need air ambulance, that means the situation is very critical.
Okay.
So you don't want to leave a patient who is stable to move to unstable situation.
Yes, okay.
So oftentimes you have situations where they go and say things like they need to discuss with the family, blah, 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 blah. So that takes time.
Yes, and then you're trying to, it is an emergency.
It's an emergency, so it takes time. So you always need one person in that family who is willing to take the risk and decision ASAP, immediately. So oftentimes we see them passing on before we even commence. In the middle of the transaction where the mission has not even started. So that's the only place, but that's not our liability. It's the family's liability.
Okay, like aside this, what other challenges do you face, like in this business? Challenges?
Yeah, I mean, that's the basic challenges that we usually have. Like I said, it's a very tiny market. The dollar rates, the response from the family, it's also important. So those two are. Then also, by the way, the banking regulations as well, because oftentimes if I need to use like a Learjet or a Gulfstream kind of aircraft, a Learjet takes just one stop if you're going to London, in Morocco, and like that. Then you have a Gulfstream which can fly long range, non-stop. Now, sometimes you need to transfer to the pilots, the co-pilots. If you're using the medical crew from abroad, from Luxembourg, you need to also pay in advance. That is the transaction. So now, the banking regulation says that except if it's inflow, you can't transfer more than $10,000. And you have cases where you need to transfer $100,000 and something like that. So for us, that affects business a lot. If only government could give concession for critical situations like that, and then that's a major problem.
What would you say actually stands out, makes your business stand out compared to, your competitors?
Okay, so for us, I think we prioritize saving lives than the money. And that's exactly why a lot of people trust us. That's why a lot of people feel comfortable with us because of integrity and due diligence. For me, we say it the way it is. So if a patient can't make it, we'll tell you. It's not, for me, it's not about the money, I don't want to be involved in any unnecessary litigations and whatever that can be avoided. So we tell them the way it is. So that a lot is something we worship. Integrity is our major watchword. And that's why if you mention Swift Air to anybody who knows us, they tell you, those ones, they do it spot on and make it real.
Okay. Well, I understand that your priority is not the money, saving lives. It's so interesting to know because I do interact with especially private hospitals. And I realize that a lot of private hospitals prioritize the money over lives, and which is unethical. In Nigeria, for instance, there are times when there are cases of emergency, people would rather ensure that you can pay before even attending the service, not looking at, this person is dying, can we just do something, and thereafter we can talk about the money. So, but on the other side, it's also a business. How do you balance saving lives and, doing business?
Okay, so, it's like a commercial aircraft. Will you fly based on trust? You have to pay. You have to buy your ticket to fly. So there's no emotions here. There's no emotions. It's like I said, you need to buy a ticket before you can secure even a seat. So the same thing goes with aviation. It's services. So you need to pay. There's nothing like, okay, when I get there, then I will pay. We've had, I don't want to say this, but we've had, I've had one particular episode that from a very high-ranking late senator who I took the challenge and I took the risk to move the aircraft, into the country. And unfortunately, just a day before the proposed date of evacuation, and the patient passed on. And when I told the family, they said 3 days after, about their liabilities. They said to me, why didn't I tell them on the day the man died? I said, I'm human. I would never have asked you for money when you just lost your parents. No, I won't do that. So, and we're burnt. We lost up to $65,000. That's crazy. So, that's where emotions led you. So some of these things, once your hand is burnt, you don't want to go into that again. So pay, then we activate. When we activate, we preposition. Prepositioning means getting the aircraft ready, getting flight permits over airspaces you're going to fly. That also takes time. Get the flight dispatcher to make sure that everything works. Then the handling agent here and at the destination. So you need to pay for all these services prior to. So, and that's why in our termination clause, terms and conditions, it is well spelled out there, signed by the family before we do anything. Okay. So that if the patient passes on or anything happens, the termination clause is there. We know how much we'll refund to you. And you also know we are not the one killing your patient. And even if it's a very high-risk situation, we tell them, we make sure they sign the high-risk form and also explain to the family the dangers inherent in flying this patient. He could die airborne or at drop. God, we've never had any such situation. Yeah.
I know you've had so many missions. Can you share with us one particular mission that touches you?
Well, you see, this business is what I call, just like you have in medicine, autocratic. It's what do you even call it? It's highly confidential. Yes, okay. Where you can't be talking about. So some of the things that has happened, we have to take those information to the grave. But without mentioning names, I can tell you situations where that this patient would have been saved if the family had done the right time, the moment to mention to them to fly this patient. But when they don't tell you, don't have control over that.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
some of these things touches us, me in particular. especially when I know these patients can be saved.
Okay.
Then you have very, very funny scenarios where some families even say, oh, I'm going to pay 150 million and just to fly. What did the patient die? Well, God will make, it's only God that gives life and whatever. So I don't think we really believe in the sanctity of life. So some of those things happen a lot, a huge lot.
Okay. So let's talk about the future.
Yes, please.
What's the future for Swift Air Ambulance?
Okay, so Swift Air Ambulance, because of the kind of situations we found ourselves, we've also delved into medical tourism as well, which is part of one of the things that we do, which I didn't mention earlier. And that's because we also discovered that some people even want to fly abroad, they have the capacity, but they don't know the location. So I'm blessed with the ability to identify the right hospital for particular situations. So right now, currently, what we also try to do through, because of the advent of COVID is to partner with some foreign organizations, you know, our friends and some local Nigerians, and partner with them to establish a hospital in Abuja here, which equates almost exactly to what you get in Dubai or in any JCI accredited hospital in London, in America, in India. So we have all those models here in Abuja. So we have a hospital here. We're also thinking right now about some other partners who can come in, and also new ventures like stem cells, for example, degenerative medicine. So which it's an ongoing process, and we pray it comes out successful. It takes time.
Interesting.
But, yeah.
Finally, as an entrepreneur,
Yes.
there are a lot of business-minded people watching you,
Yes.
entrepreneurs, and what would be your advice to them over the years? How long have you been into the business?
2026, now we make 13 years.
13.
Yeah, so when we launched, our first flight was Afghanistan, from Kandahar to Dubai. Then our second was from Abuja. We've also done Congo, Brazzaville. We've done Benin Republic. We've done, so the way it is that it's a very tiny market, so we all know every operator, we know ourselves.
Okay.
So if you're coming to me, you're asking somebody else elsewhere, the same person will ask me.
Oh, okay.
So we get to know. So fortunately, I have aircrafts in Malta, in Luxembourg, and in Dubai, and in Turkey. So strategically placed in such process. Don't forget, parking aircrafts here, especially when it's not a day-to-day thing, costs a lot of fortune in Nigeria. So
I was actually going to ask that.
Yes, aviation is a big business in Nigeria. So this is what we do. So we've narrowed down to be providers,
Okay.
then have relationships with the operators. So the operators don't interface with people. They interface with the providers. And that's the best we can do to make sure our business survive in the medevac industry.
So what's your advice?
Yeah, tenacity. I think patience, I always tell people, when you want to grow a business, always liken it to the way you were born. You were born, could you run? No. You were born, your business is born. Okay, so by the time you crawl, your business starts crawling. Look at the time it takes for a child to crawl. It's the same way business crawls. In fact, if you start a business and you start flying, just know that it won't take time. You will crash, because you're not well prepared for it. So if you're going into any venture, liken yourself to a child, metamorphosis from birth, from cradle to gray, and it's tenacity and passion. Passion. If you have passion, there's no way you won't succeed. Yeah.
Okay.
If you love what you're doing, definitely will succeed.
Okay, you've had
And integrity, also very important, because most of the things I sell for me is my personal name. And hardly would you find anybody say to you, no, he's going to do unethical things. No, I do ethical, and that's it.
Okay, so if I want to go come into your line now, would you advise me to?
Please do. I mean, the more the merrier. Some of us are getting bored already. I like to see people who are younger so that we can share ideas with them and they can now take advantage of their modern thinking, to put the icing on the cake. Because a lot of young people are doing wonders because you have the ability to think, out of the box, even than us. We were still traditional in thinking, so perhaps you want to do social media, you want to do all this blah, 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 blah. For me, I think you're well invited. I'll be more than glad. I'll even be your mentor.
All right, thank you so much. So you've heard him, right? Tenacity and passion. These are the qualities you need as an entrepreneur, as a business-minded person to succeed in whatever venture you want to, whichever venture you want to, go into. Thank you so much for joining Gift Unwraps on this episode. So do let us know in the comment section, what do you think about this business? And is this the first time you're hearing about air ambulance, especially in Nigeria? Let us know in the comment section. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.